Welcome to the January 7th, 2020 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we are here live from MAGFest 2020.
I mean, I guess we're at MAGFest, but he's never alive.
It's live if you're listening to it at the time.
If you're in our room with us, which you are not, then this would be live.
Yeah. I mean, I'm live.
That's a good point. In fact, everything I record is live. It's just no one's around for it.
Yeah, seriously. Get with the program. We actually have a pretty light news week, so we'll go over a couple things, but really we're just going to go over what we've seen at the convention so far. We've gone through a successful single day of the convention, and we haven't gotten sick. None of us have.
Give it time.
Yeah. I mean, you have to contract something before MAGFest in order to get actually sick, unless it's like food poisoning or something.
Maybe, but man, I got wrecked last year.
Well, luckily I got my flu shot this year, and
So what does that mean? Like on Wednesday?
No, I got it like pretty early, way before flu season.
But like approximately when?
Like November.
So last year. Hey.
Oh yeah. All right.
I can't believe you got it last year.
Yeah, but I got it in like November, so like on my job thankfully gave us free flu shots, so I haven't gotten sick this year yet. So.
By the way, speaking of crap like that, like how many times did you encounter on January 1st or 2nd the joke like, oh, I haven't seen you since last year?
Oh boy.
I found it once. I had it happen once.
Well,
it was not to me, but I was there for it.
Luckily, I took off until Tuesday of actually the release of this recording. So, luckily, I won't encounter any of those jokes, unless they're about me.
Yeah.
So anyway. Thankfully that didn't happen, and the only people that did those just like did them in bad taste. Like,
oh yeah, of course.
Like
you know what's coming. Working hard or hardly working. Funny every time.
Yeah. We're gonna go over some of the things that we picked up and did in the first day. Usually that's like the most exciting day because it's like all this new stuff and what the vendors have, is
That's
exciting.
The thing. Yeah, there are cool panels to see every day, but the vendors room obviously would have the most things it could have on day one, because then people start buying.
Well, also, there is a slight caveat to that. I mean, like some of the places do trickle out stuff.
Well, that's true, and some vendors don't come in until like Friday or something.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll definitely have something to check out today, which is Friday.
That's true, yeah.
But we wanted to get a jump on the recording. This is actually giving us quite some leeway here. But thankfully, we've been having a good time so far. But first, I wanted to go over a couple news items just to get those out of the way. The first thing I wanted to go over was that Sid Mead passed away. Do you know anything about Sid Mead, Lotus?
I saw a couple mentions of him. Like, he had something to do with, like, just old school gaming.
No, actually,
I was thinking of someone else then.
Yeah, so Sid Mead was a futuristic artist, and his actually Sid Mead I think was actually I think you might have something there. I think he was.
Yeah, I was thinking of someone who had interacted with like the Commodore or something.
I was actually going to say Sid Mead actually did art for Sid Mead's Terraforming, a 2D shmup for the PC Engine and TurboGrafx.
Maybe that's where.
Okay. Yeah, you are correct there. But he was a futurist artist, so he actually did designs that inspired a lot of science fiction, including Blade Runner is like the most prominent thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you have just like a sample image up for the article, and I immediately thought of Blade Runner.
Yeah, Blade Runner, he did like the concept art for Blade Runner. He also Gundam stuff. Yeah, Gundam. He did stuff that inspired the AT-ATs in Star Wars.
Wait, did he?
AT-ATs, yes.
I thought the AT-ATs were inspired by like those power line looking things from a long distance away that kind of have like a horizontal like wires connected on top. I thought they just looked like that straight up from a distance. If you
took a look at this like a futuristic construction photo that, or construction painting that he has, you would be like, oh man, that's unmistakable.
Okay.
But like his art obviously inspired everything else that was inspired by it in turn. So
yeah, this looks like 60s
Star Wars,
sci-fi.
Yeah, a lot of like really stylish, contrasting colors.
Yeah.
His designs were used in Tron. That's why we have the light cycles. Yeah, it's just some really cool stuff. A lot of what we see in look at the spinner car.
Yeah.
There. We're looking at an article that was posted on Kotaku earlier this week. Like hydroponic. Gravity loops and all this other stuff, but like a lot of our science fiction was inspired
Space Odyssey
specifically by this guy, and you could kind of tell like it goes hand in hand with like Frank Lloyd Wright's kind of stuff from back in that era as well. But unfortunately, he passed away. He had a good long life, obviously, but it just kind of stinks because he was a great influence. So I did want to mention that. I've actually mentioned him quite a bit in when I used to do the film talks at my local library. So
the ones that your library never advertised in any way, shape, or form.
I literally
those film talks to yourself at the library.
Well, literally the only people that ever attended them were my friends and family.
Yeah, the people that you could have just done it at your house with anyway.
Yeah, and they were really, mostly humoring me, they were doing it to support me, but it got to the point where the fourth one came around, I did King Kong, and literally no one was there.
Ugh,
so I just packed up.
Yeah, fuck this.
I got 15 minutes into King Kong, I was like, okay, nobody's showing up late or whatever, so... And then the next month comes around and the librarian goes, are we still good for this month? And I'm like, no. And he never emailed me back. And it was just I did it nicely. I was just like, unfortunately, I think I'm the only my friends and family have attended mine.
Again, you could just make that a movie night instead of taking up a room.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I spent a good chunk of my weekend planning
setting up
things.
Scripts and stuff.
Yeah, setting up the lessons. So doing research. So, anyways, I knew a bit about Sid Mead because of those things.
Sure.
I did want to mention that. I also wanted to quickly mention that Untitled Goose Game is uncharacteristically extremely popular. It sold over 1 million copies.
Well, it's great. You're just kind of a low-key jackass, and that's the game.
Yeah.
Take people's things and run away with them. That's the game. Do it.
I really want to buy it because I think my fiance would have a fun time playing it with me because it has a lot of crossover appeal. A lot of people that don't play video games are like, oh man, this is amazing.
Well, yeah, you can't game over or whatever. The worst thing that happens is somebody's like, give me that back, and they take it back. It's
really just a sandbox, a place where you can a playground of activities to do, and and it's just funny. So it's going around. I don't own it yet. Obviously, you don't either, but I don't. It's definitely going to be on my radar and something that I hear it's a great game to play as a couple because it's fun.
I've seen a little bit of gameplay and it looks quite entertaining.
Yeah, so why wouldn't I pick it up? I'll pick it up eventually, but I did want to point that out that it's a low key indie game that got a lot of traction.
Following,
and
is it even cult?
It's not even cult at this point because 1 million copies is
that's a big deal.
A lot of AAA games aspire to 1 million copies, and if it doesn't do 1 million, it's considered a failure.
Yeah.
So, but this is a small team in Australia that came out with it, and. Apparently, it made a lot of it made the Game Awards as well. So a lot of people's top 10 lists. A couple places gave it Game of the Year too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's not my kind of game that I'd really pursue for a long time, but I can see why it would win a Game of the Year.
It's just fun.
It's a very good game.
Moving on from that, you actually sent me this, and this is extremely interesting. There's been a wealth of prototypes from the 8-bit and 16-bit era showing up lately.
Yeah, we talked about Akira last week, but there's been we also mentioned this on the podcast before, old prototypes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the pre-Michael Jackson inspired music and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is really interesting, especially since Taito games from the 1993 era tend to be like extremely interesting. Like a lot of the later Taito games on the NES are rare and really good. So they're highly sought after by collectors and people that just want good games alike. But one of the games that's like particularly rare is the second Flintstones games for the NES, along with you have Little Samson. You also have like the sequel to Solomon's Club, which is like Fire and Ice. You have Power Blade 2, like a whole bunch of Taito games that are really good and a lot of fun. The Jetsons is kind of up there as well. So like a lot of those games are kind of hard to find, but looks like there was this one actually came out. The Flintstones for Genesis actually came out, like the one based on the cartoon. But they found a prototype of it, so like there's some early stuff that's been changed, obviously, for the later build. But the really interesting one that you showed me here was that there was a prototype found for the one based off the movie, The Flintstones, so like the live action.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Movie, and that's really insane because it was never released as a retail product. It was only a Sega Channel game. So it's the prototype that they found is a much earlier build than the one that they released on Sega Channel.
Even so,
it's something.
Yeah, it makes me think of those Satellaview games
on
the Super Nintendo. Like, where did you get this? This was online only.
Well, Satellaview games had to be downloaded, I think, in order to play. Like they couldn't just stream.
Okay.
But the really interesting thing about Satellaview games is that they had like live components.
Yeah.
So therefore they like stuff would happen based off of like what time of the day, and like there would be like people doing voiceovers and stuff, and like doing all kinds of stuff. And the reason why they have any record of that stuff is that like maniacs back then were like videotaping it because they knew it was something that would go away.
Yeah.
So but
I remember seeing stuff like that on some old, like maybe it was Did You Know Gaming or something, where they mentioned like, oh, this is one of the oldest glitches in recorded history because someone in the 90s like video camera like taped their TV when they were playing it and like sent it out somehow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But this stuff is really cool, and anytime we could find like a game that like people remember, like this, people played this game and had no access to it. Yeah. So anytime we could preserve a game that was lost to time, this is great. I mean, apparently there's only 2 levels. You could check this out, the Hidden Palace. There's like only 2 playable levels and no music, but it's a start, and at least we have something. When before we had nothing. So I thought that was really cool. I definitely want to check out that Akira thing too. But moving on from that, I did want to mention that the Behar brothers, the company from Turkey that makes the Toro and Goro boxes for the Dreamcast, they're like really awesome RGB stuff for the Dreamcast. They're like a great company, and they just keep pumping out like new stuff. They finally finished their current thing, which is a solution that allows the Neo Geo to be displayed in 480p VGA, like right out of the box. Back then, like almost all the systems were 240 240i. So this is really, really good. They were 240p. They were 240p, and nowadays, like most TVs don't recognize anything below 480i. So this is really great. This will allow you to like easily convert that signal into HDMI and like just beam it to your TV if you are consoleizing a Neo Geo arcade board and one of the MVS systems. So pretty exciting piece of news that I got off of RetroRGB.com. It's a nice little kit if you're doing this kind of thing. I already have an Omega as I talked about in a previous episode, but it's definitely a great option. So that'll be great. Moving on from that, we also have. Oh, I wanted to bring this up last time, and we just glanced over it. But the SD to SNES flash cart for the Super Nintendo, the one that's like really good. It has like support for all the special chips games, and will allow you even to play with like audio tracks on certain games, if they're programmed right. Unfortunately, the SD Collective gave them a cease and desist because apparently Retro RGB knows a rumor about like a specific person that ratted them out, like basically put the SD Collective like on notice for this, but apparently like he's a troll. He just like doesn't like, he just likes causing trouble for everybody, which is a shame because this is a great product and like really great person makes it. Curry and Crix is the one that manufactures it. So like this is a really great product, and it shouldn't be like, people shouldn't be messing with it. But the SD Collective is actually like a collective of like 3 companies that own all the patents for like SD cards. So it's like Toshiba, like SanDisk, and like Sony or something. And they are apparently like on the trail of everybody that has like SD in their title for like all of these homebrew things. Yeah, it's really stupid because like,
well, it makes me think of like that one guy who tried to copyright Edge. It's like, fuck you.
Well, like, I guess my big thing is like, these products actually use SD cards. They're actually promoting their products.
Yeah. But well, by the way, before we really start going off, I do want to establish, I don't believe the cease and desist is for the product, but just the name.
Yes,
like,
just the name.
They're like, don't worry, you could still buy one if you haven't yet, and you're like, oh no, like, it's just gonna be called something else.
Yeah, they rebranded it to FX Pack Pro. This was another revelation from Retro RGB.
This is gonna be in like, what, February or something?
Yeah, I mean, I like the SD to SNES name, but
because that's what it is.
Yeah, it tells you exactly what it is.
You put an SD card in an SNES card.
I mean, FX Pack Pro is a pretty good name too,
it's decent, yeah.
Because it gets point across the point that the FX chip games like Star Fox and Yoshi's Island 2 are playable, and it is the only current cart that allows you to play those games. But it just stinks because somebody's just being shitty, and it's a technicality kind of thing. And they're really not trying to like they're not trying to steal anybody's thunder. They're not trying to steal like the SD company's thunder. They just wanted, they were doing something innocuous, really. So it kind of stinks, but it's just rebranding, so you'll be able to get the same kind of thing. It's just one of those things you have to, when you now see it, you have to switch in your head. This is what it is. Another thing, I've been kind of following this like loosely, but according to Kotaku, the Mother 4 fan game, Itoi is the guy who wrote Mother 1 through 3, right?
I don't remember.
Well, anyway, I think he's a famous copywriter and novelist in Japan. He actually came right out and said, like, I don't care if somebody makes it like a Mother 3, like, I'm not going go 4. Ahead and do it. Or I meant Mother 4. Go ahead and do it because I'm like, I don't have an idea for it right now, and that's go cool. for it. So, but so this group of fans decided, hey, let's make Mother 3 then, or make Mother 4. Yeah. So what's kind of cool about this is that apparently it's not going to have a story connection, and they're changing the name, but it's done in the style.
In case he ever does come up with something, like, we won't interfere with his cohesiveness or whatever.
Well, now they can sell it, and and it looks really, really nice, and it's done in the style of Mother. There are plenty of games that are done in style of Mother, like there's Boot Hill Heroes.
Probably the most obvious one is Undertale.
Yeah, Undertale.
At least as far as the battle system is concerned.
Reverie, Citizens of Earth. There's plenty of. There's no shortage of games that take inspiration from the Mother series or Earthbound series. But this way, it could stand on its own, and they could sell it as like a fully fledged product that can have its own sequels and stuff. And also like go in another direction if they care. So it looks really neat. I definitely you should definitely check out the teaser for this game because it looks really really nice. And I love the backgrounds and stuff for the battle scenes and stuff. It just looks really neat. I'm looking forward to it for whenever it gets done, and definitely gonna throw some money to them if it's a good game.
Can you do that? Can you, are you allowed to or not are you? Are they allowed to make money off of this?
Well, it's no longer a Mother affiliated game, so why not?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's probably why they did it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so they could sell it. They're putting in a ton of work. Why not sell it? Well,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Like if there's any kind of affiliation, then they legally could not. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that whenever that releases. It's called Oddity now.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. Maybe some reference to Space Oddity.
I was wondering about that. Yeah, because Mother is very much you never go to space or anything, but the whole premise is that
it's Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Like in fact, the logo, if you ask me, evokes Mother Earth because it has Earth there and
that's true
as the O. So, I always thought that.
Early game at UFO lands, at least in Earthbound.
Yeah. And the game is inspired, the name Mother, it comes from, a John Lennon song, apparently. It was inspired by a John Lennon song, so... really cool stuff. Moving on from that, I just wanted to quickly mention this because this is a shit show. But the Uncharted movie loses its fourth director.
I think it was sixth.
Oh, is it sixth?
It's absurd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was something ridiculous down the line.
And the funny thing is,
this is an easy game to make a movie out of.
Yeah, it's not Indiana Jones. What is the the cause of all the trouble?
I find that if there is a lot of pressure on a certain license, where they're trying to control everything and make it perfect, it ends up terrible.
Yeah.
Or it ends up not as good as it could be. If somebody just went ahead and wrote a story with these characters in it and and just let it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, let's do an origin story because how could I possibly follow who Nathan Drake is? How am I...
Uncharted 1 and 2 had absolutely nothing about his past in it.
How could I possibly become invested in the character if I don't know everything from his date of birth to just now? I can't understand what's going on.
I mean...
Why didn't they do an origin story for Optimus Prime in the Transformers movie? How am I supposed to know that he's just a robot who fights other robots? Where does he come from? That's what matters to me.
A lot of the serialized stuff that Indiana Jones and Star Wars is based off of, they may have given you an origin and maybe a flashback or something like that, but a lot of those serialized things you just took for granted. It's oh, this is a character and he's doing these things.
Well, Star Wars really made a point of that. The reference to the old serials. Episode 4, you start with episode 4 because that's what it was like going to the movie theater. Before the movie would start, there'd be some short. And it'd be episode 38. You don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have caught them all. You just would have seen what's happening. What are you
gonna do? Watch every movie ever made so you can follow the serials?
And that's the same with TV shows. I mean, now we have DVRs and stuff, so we can watch things sequentially. But if TV shows were released the way they are today, back then, nobody would know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, there was a reason that when we were growing up, even though there was generally an overarching story, most episodes were episodic. So, you could at least understand what's happening in this episode. Very rarely you would see, part 2 of 3 or 4 or something, but those were events.
Even something
if Game of Thrones were aired weekly on TV, you'd be fucked. There's no way.
Even something like X-Files, for instance. That was a really popular show, right?
Yeah.
They only did big story beats once or twice a season, and every season was 24 episodes long, and they were all an hour long.
Yeah.
First of all, that's very difficult to go back and rewatch because there's tons of episodes of it. But that just tells you can just go back. It's procedural. What are they doing this week? A completely different story that barely has any connection to the last. That's why a lot of people say, like, don't even pay attention to the overarching story of X-Files, because, like, first of all, it's never going to get resolved anyway.
They'll tell you.
Yeah. But the fun stuff is, like, the Monster of the Week stuff that's happening that week. So the good writing happens in small batches. Like even like Star Trek: The Next Generation was like that. It had an overarching story, but it took like 7 years to get through it. Like it was every episode was a self-contained thing, and it was like, oh, what's Picard doing this time? You know?
Yeah.
So you just got, like, there were very few that had, like, you know, you might see a two-parter, but like
that's what I'm talking about.
That was a rarity too.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just wanted to talk about that a little bit because, like, what are they doing, really? You know, come on. But moving on, we did want to talk about what we have done at MAGFest so far. Obviously, you know, only one day, but this is like the big day where we spot all the stuff we wanted. So I wanted to go over, like, the thing I'm most proud of is actually a t-shirt. And it's kind of funny because, like, you know, what could I possibly be? But Fangamer, who has made like a lot, they made a living off of making just like
video game merch.
Yeah, especially like Earthbound stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. But they really started off as just like unlicensed like fan stuff, but now they're doing licensed stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot more licensed stuff. They're like the official like producers of a ton of really great merch.
Yeah, sometimes when I order collector's editions of like limited print games, they like sometimes they'll come through Fangamer, like the the Undertale collector's box, for example, is like through Fangamer, and I think they did like Celeste as well, even though that was a limited run game product. I think Fangamer like made it or something. Yeah, so
you'll actually know them like if you've ever done a Kickstarter. A lot of the biggest Kickstarter like the physical goods have been produced by them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like even like the Mighty, I think some of the Mighty Number 9 stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I hope not that fucking box. Jesus Christ. But like, you know, like booklets and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're very good with books and like t-shirts and little like swag. They have some soundtracks sometimes. I think they had some vinyls at one point.
Oh yeah. They produce.
Oh, they still do actually.
They typically get like limited edition versions of the same vinyls that are sold like directly from those labels.
Okay.
Like Mondo or the Mondo puts out like a lot of the Konami ones, and they put out like their own special color of it or something like that. So they have some really good stuff there, in particular stuff that I'm interested in, and like earlier, like I think about a year ago, they produced a Sunset Riders vinyl, which I was like, I think that they did it in conjunction with I Am 8-Bit, and I absolutely love Sunset Riders. It's like one of my favorite Konami games from that the 16-bit era, and they produced like physical merch for Sunset Riders, which is, you know, not the most common game in the world. I was
going to say, at this point, that like borders on esoteric. Like, who's talking about Sunset Riders lately?
I mean, it's a big title, you know, in the retro gaming community, but like they haven't re-released it at all. And like a lot of newer players probably would have never heard of it, and it wasn't. I think it was bigger on console than it was in the arcade.
I've never seen an arcade machine for that thing.
I love the arcade version. It's 4-player, just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I absolutely love Sunset Riders. It used to be the game I would play on the SNES, but they produced an official T-shirt for Sunset Riders, which I was blown away by. And the first boss in the game, when he dies, he has like a very famous like voiceover that you can hear in the game, where he goes, "Bury me with my money," and it's just really funny. And he falls over and his money. He's like a banker villain, and they actually produced a wallet that says "Bury me with my money" on it. So
that's great.
It's incredible. But I picked up the T-shirt. I really love that. I picked up a wallet recently, so I didn't end up picking that up, unfortunately. But Fangamer, we mentioned, really has a history of making really great fan books. One of the best things that they've ever made, if you ask me, was like the Mother 3 like survival guide that they came out with. It was amazing when they came out with that, and that really put them on the map. And it basically gives you descriptions of the lays of the land in Mother 3, and that's like one of my favorite games. So it's great. It's kind of like a companion piece to the Nintendo Power Guide for Earthbound.
Yeah.
Well, they produced the Hollow Knight Wanderer's Journal, which is like the lore journal that you fill out as you go through Hollow Knight. And this is an official product, too.
It makes me think of like the Ammonomicon.
Exactly.
Like, physical, like it's in the game, but you could get a physical. Or like the Wizard's Handbook or whatever it's called for Ni no Kuni.
Yeah.
Like if you have a physical of that, it's like it's in the game, but it's real.
I'm actually disappointed with the Ammonomicon because they didn't do an update for it.
Yeah, the Ammonomicon is freaking brilliant, but then like more update patches came out for the game, so there's more stuff. So the Ammonomicon is now like retroactively incomplete.
The funny thing is, like, now the game is they've put it in stone. The game is done. The game is done except for maybe bugs and stuff. So like content done.
Yeah.
So but I love stuff like this, especially since I beat Hollow Knight. I can go through this. It's not something I would want Lotus to look at before he goes into the game.
I actually ordered like a physical of Hollow Knight that like came with the journal, so I think like it all was done through Fangamer, and like I haven't cracked open the journal yet because I don't want to spoil myself.
Yeah, it really much like Dark Souls, it has like it gives you the lore in dribs and drabs, and you have to make assumptions, and you have to put two and two together a lot of times with a lot of the lore, but that's like part of the fun.
Yeah.
I really love Hollow Knight. I thought it was a really great, little too ridiculous with its challenge at some points. I'm not gonna go back and play the boss rush content because it's way too hard. I just like I would be able to get through it eventually, maybe. But I would have to sink a lot of time into it.
Hack away.
I would have to sink a lot of time into it, so I didn't end up doing that. But I ended up beating basically everything else. I also picked up the Hollow Knight plush because it's very cute. It's also something that my fiance recognizes. It's one of the games that she enjoyed watching me play because it was cute. So I picked that up, and I also picked up a couple classic games. This is kind of funny, but you would think that.
Well, I would say you picked up a classic game.
Well, I mean, I would say the other one's classic by today's standards. I mean, it's almost 2 generations behind.
Yeah, I suppose.
But the first is you would think I would have this. I was actually
quite surprised that you didn't have it. You have the rarer stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of the thing is I went through like a purge with my collection a little while ago, and I was like, okay, I don't want to have like multiple versions of the same game. I'm just gonna pick the version I like the best.
Yeah.
But I ended up selling my copy of Battletoads for NES. I have the much rarer Battletoads versus Double Dragon NES version. That game is like that version is like much rarer than the SNES or Genesis one, and it's much better actually. The gameplay is a lot better. But I picked up the original Battletoads just because like I wanted it on the NES. It's an iconic title, and I should have it if I'm having a collection put together for that system. I figure that's one of the games that people are going to want to see. So I picked that back up again. And this one's the one we were debating about. Lotus actually just played this, but I picked up Drakengard 3. I actually had never picked it up before.
Like, nobody has Drakengard 3. Like, the game isn't expensive or anything, but you just don't see it anymore.
Yeah, I got it $25 brand new, which I thought was a pretty decent deal.
Yeah, if you want the game, like, you're not going to have to work really hard to get it. It's just that, like, you just don't see it on shelves ever. Like, it was on store shelves for, like, when it came out, and then it just vanished forever.
I haven't been able to see it at my local GameStops, so...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I saw them in mine when it came out, and then never again.
So I saw this for a decent price. $25 is well worth a brand new PS3 game, so I picked that up. I also believe it'll be one of those titles that will eventually be tough to find, just because it didn't sell particularly well.
Yeah, just like Drakengard 2. I mean, not that people are really hunting it except to say they have it as a collector's item, but like, who cares about Dragon? Like, nobody seemed to care about Drakengard 3.
Well, also, like, the Nier series is getting much more popular.
Yeah, it is now. I mean, like, even when Nier came out, nobody cared unless, like, they happened to try it out. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I guess I'll be the guy to pay $10 for Nier and see what the hell it is, and then you realize it's like Game of the Year, but you only played it 3 years later.
It also got like pretty lukewarm reviews, if that, at the time, and like you go back to it and you're like, oh wait, no, this game was the shit.
I don't even understand that though. Like, why did it get lukewarm? Like, the gameplay is great. Like, what's the problem? The voice acting's great. The music's great.
I think like IGN gave it to one of their like
IGN
one of their like
I can't believe IGN gave a dumbass review
that didn't know what they were doing, like wasn't looking forward to playing the game and didn't give it a chance, and clearly just gave it a terrible score based on his own incompetence, which is like ridiculous. It's up there with their Patapon 3 review and up there with their God Hand review. All three of those reviews are
about
really,
their God Hand
really
review,
stupid.
and that was from like 3 generations ago.
Like that, somebody should have been watching them.
That God Hand review was dumb as shit. Like, some of the stuff they said is like objectively false.
Yeah, no, and Nier they made a big point to say, I didn't know where to go when there's a big fucking X on the map to tell you exactly where to go.
Yeah, you could buy maps, like, they're in the shops. Did they never consult the shops?
Well, no, like, in the screenshot that they showed in order to, like...
Oh, yeah, implying they had a map?
Yeah, they were like, no, it's right there, dude. See that giant X? Like, he was just incompetent.
Like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even people in Cowboy Times knew that a big red X on a map was telling you where to go.
Even people in old pirate times knew that X is where to go.
X marks the spot.
Yeah. What do you think it means, you idiot?
But, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I also wanted to quickly mention that, though this wasn't particularly a MAGFest thing, I got it right as we were going to MAGFest from you, Lotus, but you gave me my physical copy of Glitter Mitten Grove, aka Frog Fractions 2, which I'm always really excited to get the big box PC games from Limited Run. I think they're great, and it even has like a slip cover that has like Frog Fractions 2 underneath Glitter Mitten Grove.
Yeah, the slip cover is Glitter Mitten Grove. If you take out the actual box, it's just Frog Fractions 2 straight up, like unambiguously. Yeah,
for those of you who don't know, like Frog Fractions was an amazing flash game that was probably one of the funniest games I've ever played in my life, and it was masquerading as an educational game, but it's all a bunch of nonsense. And
I like the description of the game on the back, like, because on the back the description for Glitter Mitten Grove is like legit. Like, have you got what it takes to be Fairy Queen? Journey to a new dimension of whimsy and this and that. But like, if you take off the slipcover and read the Frog Fractions description on the back, the first item is your retreat from the grueling rat race of Glitter Mitten Grove. It's like, what?
So we should also preface this that like the developers of Frog Fractions 2 were like, sorry, Frog Fractions 2 is canceled, like right before they were going to release it, and they're like, instead we're putting out this game, Glitter Mitten Grove. Enjoy this, you animals.
Yeah.
Like fuck you all, this is what you get. And so they
even if Frog Fractions 2 never came out anyway, that still would have been pretty funny.
So they released this game called Glitter Mitten Grove that's okay, I guess, but like nothing that you want to play. But like, it is a shell game for you to find Frog Fractions 2, which is hidden inside of it. So like, you have to do something to unlock Frog Fractions 2, which is the actual game.
That's amazing.
But really, really cool stuff.
Didn't you say, like, in the game itself, they're like, nope, we still never made Frog Fractions 2, and the credits say, like, Frog Fractions 3?
Yeah, no, the credits say Frog Fractions 3. Like, thank you for playing Frog Fractions 3.
Yeah, we're never getting Frog Fractions 2.
So they straight up cancel Frog Fractions 2. You won't get it. One of the funniest, like, alternate reality campaigns I've ever seen in my life. They just trolled, like, everybody who was trying to pick apart their clues, like the entire time. And it was, like, spread across, like, multiple games and all this other stuff. You should look up the the saga of it online. I'm sure that somebody's explained it on a YouTube.
Yeah, my favorite is still like
video.
You eventually find like a Game Boy Advance ROM, and when you run it, it's like
it says Konami.
Yeah, it says Konami, but it's like grainy ass Game Boy Advance like interpretation of like the Rickroll video. It's like, what?
Like eventually, like they found that there was like this GBA file, and if you put it into like an emulator or something, it'll just
Rickroll
they just rickrolled you. Yeah,
like, that's amazing.
It's like, oh, you thought you found a clue? Fuck you. So I have that now, and I love also it says Games for Windows RIP instead of Games for Windows Live on it. It has a 3 1/4 floppy. It indicates that.
Yeah, 3.5 inch floppy disk.
Or
Thanks.
3.5.
And instead of saying Games for Windows on the side, it says Gromes for Windords.
There's
Gromes.
There's...
And on the other side it says Gams for Window.
There's also like system requirements on the back, and there's like a highly discouraged like.
Oh, I didn't even
section.
see that.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh yeah, highly discouraged. Like 640 kilobytes of RAM. Like dual 3.5 inch floppy drives.
Okay, good luck even buying that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to play that. Obviously. Also,
Hercules graphics card.
Our friend Perry finally gave me my birthday gift, which it was my birthday in July.
Yep.
Mind you, but we just hadn't connected really well. So he gave me a pizza shredder.
Game experience may change during online play. Bullshit.
Still reading the box.
Yeah, I'm still reading the box.
He gave me Lotus. He gave me a pizza shredder.
Very nice.
Do you know? I don't think you understand.
It's a shredder action figure, and you put it on pizza.
Close. It is the shredder, but it's a cheese grater.
Nice.
And it's officially licensed by
So it's
the
like
Ninja
an
Turtles.
actual. It's a shredder that is a shredder.
Correct. He got me that,
Very
and
nice.
he also got me a book specifically about the Invisibles and like the occult themes that are hidden in the Invisibles. It's a comic book series by
That's
Grant
clever.
Morrison. So like an entire big book like about like a very esoteric subject, which I have a lot of reverence for. So I can't wait to read that. How about you, Lotus? What did you end up picking up?
Well, I picked up a couple things. 2 were actually limited run games that I just didn't get when they first came out. So I picked up Gravity Ghost and Typo Man for the PS4. Gravity Ghost, I just didn't know what it was at the time, and everybody said, oh, it's so good, like, you gotta play Gravity Ghost, so I was like, alright, so I picked it up. Typo Man, I was wondering if I should get it on PC, because it seemed, I don't know if it involves actual typing, I know it involves manipulation of letters, so I wasn't sure how...
there's typing in it.
I wasn't sure how that would transfer to console, but
Yeah.
if there's a console version, I guess it works well enough. So I picked up Typo Man. Otherwise, probably the most obscure thing I picked up was, there's this one vendor who was not here last year, much to my disappointment, but I first saw him 2 years ago. He just sells like anime and video game soundtrack CDs.
Oh,
that's
this
like
is great.
That's my jam. So like there's always something cool to listen to in the car. So I was kind of rifling through his stuff, hoping he had Xenosaga. He did not. But what he did have was, this was weird. The soundtrack for Baroque, which is already weird enough. But this
Not
was
the one we got.
Yeah, not the one that America got. This is for the PS1 and Saturn. It is a completely different soundtrack. It's like the Japanese OST of like a PS1 game.
Yeah, made by Sting.
Yeah, remember Sting?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I got the original Baroque soundtrack.
Apparently that soundtrack is actually very iconic. Apparently, like, a lot of people really like it.
From what I've heard of it, it is quite good.
Yeah.
And again, the only thing I've really seen of OG Baroque is the opening movie, which is eerie and off-putting. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the weirder titles for that era. Definitely very experimental.
And unlike the PS2 and Wii reinterpretations, it's a first-person dungeon crawler, which is also bizarre.
Also janky as hell.
Even the new versions are pretty janky, so have fun with that.
Yeah, yeah. And then there were a couple other things that we did. I just want to quickly go over them. We went into the arcade room. I played Elevator Action Returns and Cannon Spike, which are all both fantastic arcade classics. I also played the new Elvira pinball game, which I didn't know existed. I'm a big Elvira fan, and I love her pinball tables as well. There are two of them, so two of them before that, and I love pinball. So I love horror themed pinball tables in general. So I really enjoyed that, and it had a really good flow to it. I actually want to play it some more. They also had the brand new Stranger Things pinball table, which I didn't even know was out already.
Yeah, they had two of them.
Yeah, so I want to get a chance to play that before we peace out. We also played a bunch of Towerfall, which is always fun. Love Towerfall. Definitely one of the best party games around. And
well, finally, you got to see your very first Marx Brothers movie, which is debatably the best one.
Yeah. So it's the iconic Marx Brothers movie, but it was great. I laughed out loud several times.
Yeah, Duck Soup. Like, seriously, that movie holds up.
Yeah, I actually picked up a 4 or 5 movie collection for only $10 of Blu-rays on Amazon, which was amazing. And we had some technical difficulties getting it to run on my laptop because Blu-rays are stupid. But I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to see Night at the Opera and I heard Horse Feathers is another great classic.
Night at the Opera is not part of that collection. Like, the gimmick with this collection, it was the 5 movies that had all 4 Marx Brothers in them. So Duck Soup was one of those. Night at the Opera is not one of those, but I still recommend Night at the Opera. That movie's hysterical. But yeah, Horse Feathers is also very good.
Yeah,
they had cocoa nuts.
One of the most iconic jokes of all time was this.
Oh yes.
Was Groucho with a bunch of doppelgangers doing a mirror trick with each other. Somebody
had dressed up as Groucho and ran away because he was afraid of getting caught, and he just crashed straight into a mirror, which I guess was also a wall because you could just walk past it when the mirror's gone. So when Groucho approaches, the guy just tries to pretend to be his reflection, and they're just mimicking each other's movements, and it gets stupider and stupider, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's been parodied a whole bunch of times in Looney Tunes and stuff like that. Well, more not parody, but
just referenced.
Reference.
Like the Marx Brothers are live action Looney Tunes before. Isn't it before Looney Tunes even existed?
Yeah, I mean, you can even say Bugs Bunny's just Groucho Marx.
Yeah, this is 1933. Some of the stuff you see in Looney Tunes, it's that could only be done in a cartoon. No, Marx Brothers did this wacky slapstick dumbassery in real life first. As
much as I like the Three Stooges, they were contemporaries with the Marx Brothers. I actually like the Marx Brothers even more because it's a lot of wordplay.
Well, the Three Stooges is very lowbrow, and it's just shocking and hilarious to see that on TV, especially at the time. The Marx Brothers doesn't generally they skirt lowbrow stuff, but it's mostly just silly.
Yeah. I loved it.
Again, stuff really you've only ever seen in cartoons, a bunch of guys wearing metal helmets and just taking drumsticks and just playing music on their metal helmets. That's something Mel Brooks did in History of the World Part 1, 40 years later. Marx Brothers did it first.
Everybody imitated them.
Yeah.
For sure. So it was great to see, and I laughed out loud several times during the movie, and, that doesn't always happen even, with stuff I like.
Yeah, and with the Marx Brothers, it's a mile a minute with these guys. If a joke doesn't land, or if you literally miss it, because that's possible, because they're just so rapid fire, that's okay, here's another one. It's great.
Yeah, definitely look up some of their sequences on YouTube just to get a taste.
Look up Duck Soup mirror scene. That should come right up. Look up A Night at the Opera. It was I think it was Stateroom. The Stateroom scene. That is a cartoon in real life again. It's amazing. Just more and more people enter a room until there's too many people in it. It's hysterical.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for what we've done at MAGFest so far. We played a little bit of Crisis, yeah, I'm sorry.
There are several. There's Xenoclash.
Yeah.
Xenogears, Xenosaga.
Since we were talking about Xenosaga earlier, I kind of got confused in my head. But we were playing Xenocrisis, which is one of the the best indie games that I played in a while. We played that 2-player on the Switch for a little bit and enjoyed that. We'll just do our thing here at MAGFest. But we wanted to go over what we've done so far. Anything else you wanted to mention, Lotus, before we do a sign off here?
I eagerly await the opportunity to introduce my friends to Twisted Pair, the latest in the Neil Breen filmography.
Yeah, we are fine purveyors of good shit.
The Neil Breen collection.
We were purveyors of fine shit. So Neil Breen is like, he's like kind of like Tommy Wiseau in his earnestness, but like he has much more content. Like he just pumps out movies constantly. So
I mean, he's made 5 in like.
I mean, Tommy Wiseau's made
years.
1 movie.
Yeah, the thing is though, like Tommy Wiseau's movies like look like movies. It's just like, oh, that acting is corny, but like it looks like a movie.
Yeah.
Neil Breen's just got a lot of really long shots, and like you're not quite sure how this scene connects to that one until you think about it for a little while.
It's not edited professionally.
Like the editing is like acceptable, but there's just very long takes and like just ramblings of a madman.
Yeah, exactly.
Tommy Wiseau, everything makes perfect sense. It's just stupid. With Neil Breen, you're like, what am I watching?
I don't know if everything makes sense. Turns out I have cancer.
Well, no. I mean, that makes sense. So you understand it. It just doesn't matter at all. Like the logic of the movie makes perfect sense. It's just like idiotic. With Neil Breen, you're like, I think I understood that scene, but now I'm watching this one. Okay.
They don't really have plots as much as like things happen.
They kind of do. Well, actually, no, you're right. They have like premises.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want to do. I guess I'll see what happens.
Exactly. So we'll be watching that. And our friends love bad movies. I think we even want to see Dolomite at some point too, which is always a
I don't know if they ended up watching that last night or what. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Whatever.
Either way, we've seen it. So
many times. But
you have?
I've seen it at least 2 or 3 times.
No shit. Okay. Yeah, I've seen it just the one time.
The original Dolomite.
Yeah, I've seen each of Rudy Ray Moore's movies. I want to say once.
Oh, I've seen Human Tornado a whole bunch of times because
very
it's
nice.
amazing.
Very nice.
That's easily his best one.
That is
like
well, it's his most enjoyable one. I would say straight up best is probably P.D. Wheatstraw.
P.D. Wheatstraw's quite good.
Yeah.
I actually do want to rewatch that one. Disco Godfather I need to rewatch entirely because I wasn't
as big on Disco Godfather.
Yeah, it's just one. That was his last movie too. Like
not even close.
Really?
No, that was his 4th. He did like 5 or 6. The last one he did, he died before the movie was finished.
I mean, like the last one before he basically didn't make any more movies until he tried to make the Dolomite Explosion.
I forgot if there was a 5th one before that or not.
Pretty sure the Disco Godfather was the last one.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that'll be our show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep Lotus off the edge. Finally,
what?
He's teetering.
I need praise.
Praise me, damn you.
Acknowledge me. Please clap.
Witness me. You can catch us on Thursdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. And also, we will be having a great episode here, wrapping up 2019. So, games we played, games that we need to go back to, which there are plenty because we are adults with lives. But we will always be eternally trying to chip back at our backlog. But we'll get there, I'm sure. we'll play all of the games we've bought. Eventually.
Oh, right? Yeah. All we have to do is stop buying games.
Which won't happen. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince. And by the way, before we sign off, I forgot to mention, because it's not happening at the time of this recording, but it's certainly happening when you're listening, it would be remiss of me to forget. Games Done Quick is happening, quote, right now, when you are hearing this, it started on Sunday, and it will go on through, I want to say Sunday? It's
I don't know.
I know it's a week long, but I forgot if that means it ends on Saturday night or Sunday or what. But
sure.
Games Done Quick is so fun every single time. So if you have not already been tuning into that, please do, because it's amazing and it's for a great cause.
Yeah, and I'm sure next week Lotus will give us some highlights. I'm sure. I always enjoy the highlights. I don't have a ton of free time, so I like hearing. I like watching like the
because I'm in education. I'm on winter break right now, so I do have free time at this particular point. So I actually can get away with this.
Yeah, I'm always doing something. So
yeah, like the thing is, Games Done Quick starts on Sunday. Meaning, I mean, started on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant. But which is the last day of MAGFest. But because we're not in a hotel near the Gaylord at all, it's like a 10-minute drive, and then you got to pay for parking and everything. We're just like, we're probably just gonna go home on the Sunday. So like, I'm gonna get home and unpack and probably just start tuning in if I can.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll update everybody on that and on next week's show.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, not on Corrective, because we record Reactive and Corrective at the same time. I will certainly get back to you on the next Reactive.
You are telling the audience how the sausage is made. I do not.
I'm sorry. We record these live. I just forget about everything.
I can't edit
happens.
that out. I can't edit that out.
What I really meant is that we record Reactive and Corrective on Tuesday and Thursday, but coincidentally forget everything in Reactive that happened on Monday because we only know what happened on Sunday, and on Thursdays we coincidentally don't know anything that happened on Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, and possibly some days on Sunday. It's this really strange phenomenon.
In fact, when the YouTube video of the podcast goes up, we do it live then, and then we do it live again whenever you listen to it on SoundCloud.
That's true. Yeah,
for every single person when they hit
it's
play.
Like what Terry Pratchett. Well, it's like what Terry Pratchett wrote about how cameras work. There's just like a little guy, and the camera draws really quickly.
It's like a little imp. Yeah.
we very rarely animate live. It's a terrible strain in the animator's wrist.
All right, enough of that malarkey. We'll have to catch up with you on Thursday. We'll catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.